My name is Benjamin Wairindi, and I'll be leading a few sessions that we're going to be having today. It is quite a chilly morning. As you can see, it's quite hard to get to this location. But we're going to be waiting for our other colleagues, but in the interest of time, we have decided to proceed, and the rest shall be catching us in time. So we are also welcome to this dissemination meeting. It's titled Identifying Gaps in Food Systems Pathway Implementation, Conducting Food Safety Analysis, Developing Training Manuals, and Conducting a Training of Key Stakeholders. Pardon me? Okay, so we're just having some adjustment to the agenda. But before we go any further, I wonder if the systems team has a mobile amplifying device, like mics. Okay, thank you. They'll be going around the tables. So we're going to have a self-introductory exercise that we're going to be introducing ourselves with our names, our affiliations, our interests, and our bases. Yep. Alright. So we're going to be starting with a table at the back, and then we shall be coming to the front. All right, at the back. Yep.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Semwanga Joshua, and I am a statistician from the Ministry of Water and Environment. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Joan Biarohanga, Senior Sociologist, Ministry of Water and Environment, and a member of the Food Systems Committee.
Good morning, members. My name is Nakainga Judith. I'm a project manager from Wanyitelimba Limited.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm called Bwenje Grace Bunanuche. I'm the Senior Planner Agriculture at the National Planning Authority.
Yeah, morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Freda Himsuwe. I work with the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, and I'm the chairman of the National Coordination Forum on Grain Trade. Happy to be here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Inshemerire Jacqueline. I work with CEFOS.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Chris Pastumwebaze, and I work with CEFOS.
All right, as the mic comes to the front, we've had a registration exercise with that team that's at the back, so please ensure that you sign up with them as the day goes by. Yes?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Professor Achille Okaya from the Department of Food Technology and Nutrition, Makerere University, also part of CEFOS.
Good morning, colleagues. Abel Atkwasi is my name. From Sefosi, I'm the executive director. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Gaston Amping, part of Sefosi team, but also a senior lecturer at
Okay, thank you so much. There is one gentleman else left.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm David Tumwesige from the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. I'm happy to be here in my own capacity as a staff of agriculture, but at the same time representing Commissioner Crop Production, who was meant to be with us here today, but due to other duties, he wasn't able to come. But I will ably represent the ministry. Thank you.
We are so glad to have you, sir. Thank you so much. And again, my name is Benjamin Wairindi, and I'm a food systems researcher from the University of Witwatersrand and the University of Edinburgh in the UK, and also at Makerere University. So glad to have all of us here. So I'm going to run through the agenda that we're going to have for today. We're behind by an hour, but we'll be able to catch up, I assume. Yes? Pardon me. Systems team, there are some colleagues that are online. Would love them to introduce themselves, please. Colleagues online, you're muted. Could you please unmute?
Good morning, can you hear us?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes. Good morning, my name is Edward Tanyima, I work with FAO.
Very glad to have you on board, Edward Tanyima. And okay, I think that is it's only Edward that is going to be online, joining us online from the Food and Agriculture Organization. Okay, so allow me go through the agenda that we have for today. It will have a few adjustments, but not so much. So we had an arrival and registration that is handled by the Sefosi Secretariat. And then we have just gone through the introductions. And then we're going to have welcoming remarks from the Executive Director of the Sefosi team. And then we'll have welcoming remarks from the FAO team. And then we'll be having remarks from the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. We have them in the house. Then we shall be able to have opening remarks from the Commissioner Strategic Coordination and Implementation when they join us. Then we shall have a presentation and dissemination of the project report. That will be done by Dr. Abel and Dr. Ampe. And then we shall have a plenary discussion that could be a discussion or a plenary of the team that will be joining us shortly. Then we shall have a way forward and key recommendations from this engagement, and thereafter we shall be having our closing remarks with lunch and departure. So at this juncture, allow me introduce Dr. Abela Tukwase, who is the Executive Director of Sefosi, to give us his opening remarks. I know it's cold, but we can have a small round of applause for Dr. Abel.
These days, schools are common. going to speak on his behalf. He's called Aberat Kwasenda Mugaston. And since he's going to be speaking to us on the life cycle of the project, we have agreed that I'll be the one to welcome you on behalf of the first team. Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, representatives from the Ministry of Animal Industry and Fisheries, MAIF, representatives from NPA, Ministry of Trade, Fred, you are here, Academia, Professor Kaya. We have our colleagues from Ministry of Water and Environment. These days, you are very active in the food systems. I think you are taking it very seriously, and you have been very, very active in this cause. We thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you are all most welcome. We are pleased to be here today as we take stock of what this project has achieved and how we tend to go forward. It hasn't been a big project. It's been a project for about 7 months, and it's now coming to a close. But quite a lot has taken place, as we shall show you in the presentation that is going to follow. But important and very key in the transformation agenda of the food systems here. We started by identifying the gaps out there, and we did that. We were able to present some of that information in the financing conference that took place early August, and that was also very important, because when you identify gaps, then it means you reveal investment opportunities. So that was done, and then we carried out a safety rapid assessment of the safety issues for the major value chains that had been identified by this project, as we shall also see in the report that we are about to present to you. Among other things, we are also expected to produce a manual, because the gaps had also showed that we, the key stakeholders, have an issue in understanding the concept of food systems and how we can work together to achieve results. So, among other things, we are expected to come up with a training manual and a training guide. Of course, as I said, being a short project and with limited time and even funding, we did train, but for only one day. Some of you attended. It was a short training, and maybe along the way there will be a recommendation that this can be taken forward so that many more people are trained. And there was even a complaint that we didn't involve people from the local governments, which was valid, but those are some of the things that can be handled by different stakeholders. And after all, even the people we train should be able to train the people within their reach, their spaces, so that we can go forward with this food system transformation agenda. So we thank you for coming. It's been a difficult day because of the rain. You know, when it rains, especially here in Africa, we tend to fear rain so much, associated with so many things. So people are going in slowly, but we thank people who have managed to make it. And already key agencies are available, and so we should be able to proceed and do a very good job. So you are most welcome. Let's sit together and discuss and see how we can take this agenda forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gaston Ampe. Those were very good remarks from the director of Sefosi. He has highlighted to us the process that has gotten into us being here today. There was value chain analysis that was done. There was a manual that was developed, and then there was a training of trainers that was done, and then there was an expert panel that had to go through the manual that had been developed. So all these key processes have a final result of improving or highlighting the food systems transformation of this country. So it may have been perhaps on a small scale, but has the information that is documented, and as we are going to be seeing, it has a great cascading effect to the rest of the nation. So according to our agenda, we're going to be having welcoming remarks from the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries. Sir, you're very welcome.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Tumwesige once again, a senior agriculture officer in charge of nutrition from the Ministry of Agriculture and Industry and Fisheries. Like I said in the beginning, I'm here to represent Commissioner Alex Waku, who has been unable to be with us, but is with us in spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that globally, the food systems are faced with the challenge of several challenges, from land degradation, loss of biodiversity, food insecurity, global crises, name it. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank the funders and organizers of this initiative, Sefosi in particular and the FAO, for having taken an initiative of ensuring that, of coming up with a catalytic approach of ensuring that food systems transformation agenda deepens and goes to the ground. We have all heard of food systems. Thank you. We have all heard of food systems. I believe food systems are not new to many of us. But the problem is, it somehow remained on paper and conferences. So Sefosi and FAO, we thank you for the efforts of making sure that we deepen the food systems transformation agenda in a practical sense under this project. We need to transform the food systems in order to make them more sustainable and efficient, resilient for better production, for better nutrition, and for better health. I will not dwell. Let me come to the theme. How I wish we could flash our theme for this, the heading the project we are closing. It looked at, the project was looking at, could you please flash? Yes, thank you so much. Identifying gaps in food systems, pathway, implementation, conducting food safety analysis, developing training manual, and conducting training of key stakeholders. These have been achieved. Transformative in itself, is a game changer in itself, because it is going to equip several stakeholders in the food systems with this knowledge and more practical approach basing on the modules. And two, ladies and gentlemen, we all agree that food safety is a global problem. But when it comes to Africa, and Uganda in particular, we have a problem. Uganda is one of those countries that does frameworks. Now, when Sefosi comes to train us on food safety through this analysis, food safety analysis, we believe that in future, FAO, and this is our prayer, FAO and Sefosi and any other stakeholders, academia, please let's build capacity, let's put efforts on food safety analysis and food safety aspects, given the fact that food safety does not only affect our lives, but also impacts on trade. It has made Uganda's products less competitive on global market because of food safety concerns. When I talk of that, Professor Kaya, as a food safety expert in this house, knows, and everybody knows how we are grappling. A case in point is sesame, whereby now the problem has shifted from aflatoxin or mycotoxins now to salmonella and physical contaminants. So what am I saying? We kindly implore any stakeholder and donors to come up and we beef up our food safety aspects in this country so that we are competitive. And then gaps have been identified. As we go through the presentation, the presenter will take us through the gaps. Gaps exist in the food systems. And that one, to me, I feel was expected. And that's why Sefosi and other like-minded stakeholders are coming to say, how do we bridge these gaps if we are to achieve food system transformation agenda, the global food system transformation agenda, and more so, our game changers as a country. So, with those few remarks, I just want to declare this the end of project dissemination meeting open, and I pray that the deliberations and whatever they give us from here, we take it back home in our respective setups and ensure that we transform the food systems for better health, better nutrition, and resiliency and environmental protection. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ministry. This is very important. He has attested to what the country is going through, and it's just not our country, Uganda, but it is a very global challenge. And you can see it from various angles where food can even be used as a weapon, right? It touches on what food systems can actually entail and how multifaceted and multi-layered it can be. So he has also highlighted that there are about 3 modules that are in the manuals that have been developed that can guide or help in structuring our implementation of our food systems. So at this moment, right before we head out for our breakfast, we are going to have our team from FAO that is online to give us their opening remarks, and thereafter we shall be having our breakfast. Mr. Edward Tanyima, the floor is yours.
Am I audible now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Edward Tanyima. I want to apologize first for connecting virtually. This meeting finds us far from Kampala, but nevertheless, and despite this distance, we're able to at least connect and give our remarks and support the team that has been doing this work. So I'm giving remarks on behalf of my colleague Jean-Marie, and I'll just read verbatim. So it takes me and gives me a very great pleasure to join you, ladies and gentlemen, to this important dissemination meeting that has been organized by CEFOSI in collaboration with FAO. I wanted to first of all clarify that this is not a dissemination workshop for a project, but a dissemination workshop for activities that are part of a regional project entitled Strengthening Institutions and Systems to Accelerate Food Systems. Of course, for CEFOSI, this becomes a project in their way of their work plans and plans, but for us, we see it just as part of the project, the bigger project, which is a regional project, and CEFOSI is supporting some of the activities of the projects, which are 3 as mentioned. So ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, I would like to also take this opportunity and moment to recognize and thank key MDAs, most especially the Office of the Prime Minister, who have been critical in this process, the National Planning Authority, the Minister of Agriculture, and all members of the National Coordination Committee, including development partners, the academia, civil society organizations that have supported this process. We appreciate you, and we know your commitment is a very big foundation to progress forward this work that we've started. I want to extend, on behalf of my supervisor, and appreciation to CEFOSI and the team for the professionalism, dedication, and the commitment towards the implementation of the activities that we planned to work with you. We thank you for the commitment and the timely delivery of your outputs. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to provide a brief background in terms of these activities that we plan to do, already mentioned by CEFOSI. One of the activities which has already been mentioned is identifying gaps in the implementation of the food systems pathways, but also conducting the food safety analysis and the development of the manuals, and also using the manuals to training manuals to conduct a training. And I want to take this opportunity to thank CEFOSI for delivering all the outputs as planned. So the primary objective mainly was to generate evidence to guide key stakeholders, including development partners, and I believe there will be an opportunity at some point if CEFOSI can present together with FAO this work to the Agriculture Development Partners Group to see how best we can take this work, especially the training manual that you have already shared, and as you have mentioned, that these outputs need to be utilized by stakeholders, and therefore we believe that key stakeholders need to be in the know of this work. So colleagues and partners, today's meeting provides an opportunity to share the findings of the activities that were undertaken by CEFOSI, but also take the opportunity to share experiences, and we chat together the way forward. And some of these elements have been mentioned in the speech by the Minister of Agriculture. We need to see how we can collectively chart the way forward in terms of taking forward some of the outputs that are going to be shared. So on our side, we remain very committed to supporting this work and the implementation broadly of the food systems transformation pathways as defined by government. We will continue working hand in hand with key government institutions, most especially through the National Coordination Committee and other partners to foster innovation, inclusivity, and sustainable support to our agri-food system sector. Our hope is that the recommendations and the training manual developed through this regional project will be taken up and fully utilized by all relevant actors so that we contribute to a stronger, safer, and more effective food systems. So ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I want to thank in a special way all members who have managed to come despite the rains that started very early in the morning. But we believe that most of them will join us as we move forward. And we hope we continue to encourage everyone to see whether you have a role to play in one of the outputs that will be shared. I encourage an open discussion, ladies and gentlemen. Feel free to interact and share whatever you need to share that can be incorporated into these outputs that will be shared by SFOC. We believe that your contribution in this last meeting will be vital in case we have key elements that need to be enhanced or improved as SFOC finalizes the key outputs for submission to FAO. So colleagues and friends, with these remarks, I wish you a very productive, insightful, and fruitful meeting. I thank you very much, and I wish you good deliberations. Over to you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you so much, Mr. Edward. That was an amazing excerpt from FAO. He has highlighted incredible points on the work that has been done by SFOC. SFOC, thank you so much. And we really appreciate the fact that you are able to fund these activities that are pertinent to our nation, but then also getting us here to be able to tell the country what SFOC has been able to do. He has mentioned that he hopes that these recommendations shall be taken up by various entities, not just those that are here, but those that have been involved throughout its inception. So among these, if I could remember very well, have been the incorporation of what is in the manuals and the gaps that were identified in the food systems policies that are coming up in the country. There is a Uganda National Nutrition Action Plan that 3 that is coming up. Understand it has to be informed by the manual that has been developed. There is the National Development Plan 4 that is also being informed by the manual that has been developed. And we are so glad and happy and appreciate the teams that have been able to come up with all these. So before we break off for breakfast, I'll allow those that have just joined us to briefly introduce themselves, and then we shall be here going out for breakfast for about 20 minutes, and then we shall be coming back right after that.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Charles Asimwe. I'm from Kanungu district. I am a food systems analyst because I did the food systems analysis, budgeting and financing sometime. I participated in the food systems summit preparations of 2021 while I was at OPM, but I'm a freelancer consultant under Chigezi Food Action Consulting Limited.
Oh, he's also a politician. We're so glad to have you, sir, and appreciate you trekking all the way from Kanungu. Yes, so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have our breakfast. It's cold. I hope that we'll be able to relieve you quite a bit, and we shall be back in exactly 20 minutes. Please enjoy your refreshments. It's right at the back. Don't have to go out. It's just at the back. Okay. Welcome back from that much needed break. I hope now you feel warmer and are ready to take in the actual content of our objective here today. Those who are outside, please rejoin us and then we shall be able to proceed. Mr. Edward, confirm you can still hear us? Yeah, he could probably also went to catch a cup of tea. All right, so I'll reflect back on what Mr. Edward mentioned. He highlighted to us that this initiative is regional. So it is based here in Uganda. There is a component that is running in Ethiopia and Rwanda. I'll beg to be corrected. But it is a regional initiative that is geared at strengthening systems to accelerate food systems. And for our case, it has gone through various MDAs, the Office of the Prime Minister, academia, to give it the richness that it deserves, and for it to reach to this point of being disseminated and also being closed off. So we're going into the meat of the discussion, and what I would request us to do is to get out our notebooks and pens. We're going to have a plenary or a panel discussion or questions and answer after the presentation that Dr. Abel Tukwase is going to take us through. So I need us to take down our pens and notebooks, and then we're going to be highlighting what we feel we feel in our respective institutions, or our respective knowledge or our experiences regarding the work that has been done by CEFOSI. Just a quick reminder that there are about 4 objectives that are identifying the gaps in the food system implementation pathways, and then doing a food safety analysis that has been done. Then there was development of a manual that followed the standard manual development process, and then there was a dissemination exercise, and then now we are having our closeout. So And then Edward Tanyima mentioned that this is an iterative process. So we are going to continue learning and then refining the food system transformation that are going to be shaping this country. So take out your notebooks and pens, and then we're going to be having a question, answer, discussion after this presentation. So at this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, allow me introduce Dr. Abel Atukwase to take us through the dissemination report for this initiative. Round of applause for Dr. Abel. Thank you so much.
Let me maneuver with this one. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, once again. I had already introduced myself, Abel Atukwase. I'm presenting on behalf of the CEFOSI team. And as already highlighted, we are doing an end of project dissemination on our side as CEFOSI, but end of activity on the side of FAO. Yeah, that is how the project to activity was crafted, identifying gaps in the food system implementation pathway, conducting food safety analysis, then developing a manual, and conducting a training of the key stakeholders. Okay, sorry. So, as has been clearly explained, we've been having challenges in our food systems implementation, and then during the UN summit, which happened in September 2021, which quite a good number of us participated in, Uganda made quite a number of commitments to strengthen our food system. One of them was promoting sustainable and inclusive agriculture. 2, building resilient food systems. 3, strengthening food safety and quality. 4, building climate resilience. 5, ensuring that there is gender and youth inclusion in our food systems. 6, reducing food waste. And then 7, aligning national efforts to the global agenda. And so far, after the summit, quite a number of things have taken place. Number 1, the National Food Systems Coordination Committee was put in place, and it's up and running. They are doing quite a lot of work, which is commendable. Then there was a development of a national food systems transformation pathway, kind of trying to get a strategic plan and a roadmap on how we can transform our food systems. That one is also up and running. Then through NDP, which we recently launched, the NDP4, we aligned the food systems to our national strategic framework. And of course, resource mobilization. In July, FAO organized and held a conference to see or to chart ways on how we can mobilize resources to support the kind of strategies that we have decided to champion for us to transform the food systems. Despite all that being done, we realize that there are still some gaps in implementing the food systems implementation pathway. And as Edward from FAO had already mentioned, a proposal was put across which finally resulted into a project on strengthening institutions and systems to accelerate agri-food transformation in East African region. And this project is running in 4 countries, that is Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya, and Ethiopia. And much as most of these activities are somehow aligned, there could be some slight differences here and there. So for Uganda, which Edward described as an activity, our activity involved identifying those key gaps that are still standing in the way of the food systems pathway implementation. Through some strategic analysis and identification of game changers, which was done some time back, it was also found out that food safety was the key challenge. So we decided to this activity focused on a few key value chains, which I will be explaining, and we conducted a food safety analysis to kind of pick out the key issues that can be addressed as we work around transforming the food systems. Then, as already mentioned, most people, or maybe the stakeholders, seem not to understand, because the food systems concept, because this issue started in 2021 when we were in the COVID, then when we opened up, we haven't had a chance of educating everybody. So one of the activities was to develop a training manual for the key stakeholders, and then train a few of the national level key stakeholders. But like I'll be mentioning, the training manual is out. It has a facilitator's guide. So the thinking is that these key stakeholders who have been trained will go on training others until the message spreads across the country. Yeah, so in terms of approach, we did a cross-sectional study which involved desk literature review. First of all, pick information on what was going on, the kind of data that is available, and then we see where the gaps are. Then we also talked to key informants, especially following the action tracks, the 5 action tracks that formed part of the UN summit in 2021. And we talked to the chairpersons and the co-chairs. We also talked to the conveners, the anchoring agencies. Some of those were MDs, and some of them were development partners. And we talked to the local government staff, and also did some interviews and observations with the key private sector value chain actors for those very products or value chains that I'll be mentioning, I think, in my next slide. So in here, we talked to farmers, traders, as well as processors, to pick issues related with the food safety challenges. So in terms of coverage, like I was mentioning, we focused on a few value chains. It doesn't, yeah, now the technology must be revised. Yeah, so in terms of the value chains, we focused on cereals, legumes and oil seeds. And here specifically we picked up maize, groundnuts, and sesame because we thought these are our priority crops. In that category, maize, we consume a lot of maize, but also export it. Groundnuts also consume a lot of it. Sesame now is a very key export crop, but again, there are also those three products are prone to food safety challenges. And these ones we visited the districts of Kamwenge, Mubende, Iganga, and Lira based on the production trends. For the other category, we also looked at perishable products. And in here, we looked at milk, fish, and poultry. You can agree with me that these are very key value chains for us as a country in terms of income generation, but also in terms of nutrition. So for milk, we went to Mbarara, Nakasongora, Soroti, and Lira to kind of cover all those 4 regions. And for fish, we went to Rubirizi, Mukono, Soroti, and Pakwach. Then for poultry, we looked at Mbarara, Mukono, Iganga, and Guru. The last value chain that we looked at was the horticultural crops. Again, we picked out chili and tomatoes. The chilies and the peppers are exported. The tomatoes, we consume them around here. So we've been having issues with chili and pepper in terms of export, but locally we have issues to do with pesticide residues in tomatoes. So those were the kind of criteria that we used to pick these products. And for chili, we looked at Masindi, Wakiso, Iganga, and Guru. And then for tomatoes, Mbarara, Wakiso, Mbare, and Lira, trying to follow the regions as well as the value chains. Yeah, so in terms of results, I'm going to start with the gaps in the implementation pathways as our first objective. And in here, like I told you previously, we tried to follow the action tracks. Action track number 1 is ensuring safe and nutritious food for all. So we tried to talk to the people, the MDAs, the chairpersons, and the other stakeholders who are involved in spearheading the implementation of this action track. Yes, when we talked to them, the general observation was that the chairpersons chaired or the conveners convened, but at the end of the day, they handed over the implementation of this to government or maybe the National Coordination Committee. We are going to refine that as we move along. So one of the key gaps that we picked from literature as well as talking to people is the unmet nutritional needs. If you look at our stunting, it's still around 26% for children below 5 years. Data diversity quite low. You find most people do not consume a diverse diet. Minimum meal frequency is also still very low. So as such, we still have high malnutrition among the vulnerable groups, children and women of reproductive age. Apart from these macro deficiencies, we also have the micronutrient deficiencies. As you know that the iron deficiency is still high within children and women. And in terms of severity, people said this is still very high. We should be doing much better. We need to bring it down. Then, of course, in terms of safety, which we shall be looking at it in details later, the stakeholders also mentioned that the regulatory framework and enforcement is still weak. So we still have food contamination with the microorganisms, we have mycotoxins, we have heavy metals, and pesticide residues, as we shall be seeing later. So this one results into a high incidence of foodborne illnesses. In most cases, some of them go unreported. So the severity is also quite high. In terms of policy implementation, yeah, we have quite a number of policies in place to support safe and nutritious foods, but then the implementation is inadequate. We shall be seeing later on when we come to governance. And this results into limited coverage of vulnerable people. Much as in some areas people have access to these things, but due to limited policy implementation, we end up leaving some people behind. Yet the concept is that we should be leaving no one behind. Inadequate livelihood and social protection mechanisms. Basically, this one translates into poverty. And when there is poverty, it depends in quality. Find some people cannot afford the safe and nutritious food, and it also limits investment into the food system. The last one on this, limited infrastructure. Yeah, we know we have very limited infrastructure in terms of road network, storage facilities, and so on. The technologies for post-harvest handling, and because of that, we have high post-harvest losses, which affects food safety in return, and also reduces farmers' incomes. So here we are only highlighting a few of them, but in the bigger report we have more gaps. But for the purposes of presentation, I'm only covering a few. So action track number 2 is about shifting to healthy and sustainable consumption patterns. And the key issue here was that there is limited awareness and education, especially within communities. In most cases, you find that people have very poor food choices and purchasing decisions. In most cases, people have money maybe to buy vegetables, but because they don't have the good knowledge, we end up buying partial beans, and you find that the dietary diversity is quite low. And then the high risk of, this results into high risk of non-communicable diseases and the resulting healthcare burden. And the people we talked to said that the risk is high. Then there is low accessibility to nutritious foods. Again, linked to the other previous issues I've discussed of poverty and so on, which leads to food insecurity among the vulnerable groups. The limited adoption of diversified and climate-smart agricultural practices. This one was common. Many people mentioned the monoculture, which is happening in most areas. You find people are either focusing on bananas, others are focusing on maize, and maybe others are focusing on non-food products. In the end, we have diets dominated by starchy crops. If you go to Western Uganda, most people are eating matoke. If you go to, I think, northwest, the Masindi area, Chilyandongo, you find people are concentrating on maize. If you go to other places, maybe it's cassava and so on. So that was it was understood as having limited adoption of diversified and climate-smart agricultural practices. Then limited access to and adoption of technology. Yeah, the technologies are not there, but also the adoption for some of those which are there is a little bit low. And this one has resulted into reduced productivity and innovation. I always wonder when I go home to my village. find someone on half an acre of land. They have planted their bananas, and they are still practicing the knowledge they inherited from their grand. Remember, you were 5 boys, you shared your father's piece, and now each of you has 5 kids, but you're still using the same production practices. So I normally wonder, how do we get to use advanced technologies given the increasing population and the limited land options available? So definitely, those people are not producing anything serious. The productivity is very low, and they get excluded financially because they spend a lot of time on such a piece, and they don't pick any money out of it. So track number 3 is on boosting nature positive production. Things that are not supposed to lead to say land degradation, environmental pollution, and so forth. The key issue that came out was that there is inadequate implementation of sustainable land use. Planning, there is an error there. This one results into deforestation. You find people are cutting down forests for agriculture. You have to bear with them because they also don't have options. And this is also linked to some of the other issues we have seen. And this one results into biodiversity loss and, of course, climate vulnerability. And people thought that this is very critical and needs to be addressed urgently. Of course, insufficient investment in sustainable land management, whereby we're not attending to land degradation and soil erosion. You go to some places and you see the rate of land degradation is quite alarming. This one results into loss of soil fertility, increased greenhouse gas emissions, and other related issues. Then inadequate capacity, technical capacity, extension support, and regulatory oversight in the safe and efficient application of agrochemicals. This one we're going to see it again. People are doing things the way they want. Nobody is following the right protocols, and of course there is that inadequate extension support. This one results in soil degradation, reduced fertility, soil water pollution, and of course the human risks associated with exposure to those chemicals. The limited climate smart practices, like I've mentioned, you find that the seasons have changed, the land is limited, but then there is a limited use of these climate smart practices. If you look at TikTok now, you find some people are able to grow quite a lot of crops within their verandas. But in Uganda, you find someone on an acre of land, but because they are using those non-climate smart practices, they are not even able to produce food for their own consumption. Of course, there is weak enforcement of environmental policies. This one happens everywhere. So you find there is illegal cutting of trees and, of course, wetland encroachment. Looks like the technology now has frozen. That side. I point where? Here. I was pointing this side and it was working. No, those are the people that have the... Okay. Okay, so action track number 3, number 4. We are supposed to go to number 4. Yeah, I'm running 2 machines, so I'm getting problems. Sorry. Action track number 4, advancing equitable livelihoods and value distribution. Of course, using the principle of leaving no one behind, we should all be accessing same livelihoods, and the value should be distributed equally, but this is not happening. And one of the key issues was that there are weak market linkages. So you find that majority of the farmers do not have direct buyer access. They get to deal with the middlemen, and in some way or the other, they end up receiving around 30% of the final price. The rest of it is taken by middlemen, and the people thought this is critical. It needs to be addressed. Of course, gender disparities, women earning less than men in some areas. I think in Kampala is a little bit different. You will agree with me. Things have started changing. But then I think the key issue in the food systems is that the women do not own land. Majority of them do not own land, and yet they are providing 75% of the labor. So the decision-making process is a little bit challenging. There is a limited access to productive resources, skills development for youth in the agri-food system. So the youth are the majority, but yet they also have limited access to these productive resources, which results in too high unemployment and, of course, limited income. Then weak farmer organizations. These ones result in too low bargaining power and fragmented marketing. Track number 5, building resilience to vulnerabilities, shocks, and stresses. The key issue was about climate change vulnerability. Most of the farmers are very vulnerable to climate change because you find that the rains are erratic and they have no options. They keep on either waiting for rain or they plant, and then after a few weeks, it's not raining anymore. Their crops die out. They no longer have money to buy more seed, and they get very vulnerable. So this one results into food insecurity, and this is again critical. Of course, limited adoption of nature positive practices. I have already tried to highlight some of those issues. The way we are doing things results into soil degradation, declining productivity. In most cases, you find for maize, actually even this 1.5 acres, 1.5 metric tons per hectare, you'll be lucky to pick that if you're using the traditional approaches. Then, of course, linked to climate change, we have limited data and early warning systems. The farmers are there waiting, maybe they are not getting the right information. So as a result, we respond to disasters a little bit late. And we depend on rain-fed agriculture, and we are not adopting those resilience practices. As such, we become very, very vulnerable, as already indicated in point number 1. Insufficient preservation and regeneration of agricultural biodiversity. We are having most of the extinction. We are having extinction of some plant and animal species. So we are losing our genetic diversity, and then loss of culture and indigenous knowledge. Quite a lot of debate, I think, going on around here, whether we need to focus on the indigenous knowledge or we adopt the more robust or agricultural smart, climate smart practices. So, apart from the action tracks, we also looked at the cross-cutting issues. Because if these things are happening, say, in accessing nutritious foods, in doing nature-positive production, then what are some of those cross-cutting gaps? Number 1, people mentioned weak coordination, and they said there is a limited stakeholder engagement. There is not enough engagement at stakeholder level. Insufficient institutional capacity. You find maybe the coordinating agency does not have staff that are dedicated to the transformation of food systems. So like you're doing other things, but in addition, you're also given that responsibility. Then lack of clarity in stakeholder roles. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, when we talked to people, they said, yeah, this information we shared, but we handed over to government. So when you go to OPM, OPM is saying, we are coordinating. If you go to MAIF, they also have their challenges and so on and so on. So definitely that results into accountability deficits. Yeah, we don't know who to ask when it comes to certain things not being done. Then, of course, ineffective policy implementation. We have quite a lot of policies here, as I will be indicating later, but maybe we don't reach everybody. So implementation has challenges. Number two, the silos between the institutions and stakeholders. People mentioned, and they were passionate about this, that there are strong silos built along MDA lines. So if you look at nutrition, for example, in the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Health, there is some kind of silos built around there. Food safety, again, around there. So the silos need to be broken. People say that there is an urgent need for a shift, a paradigm shift, from that fragmented action approach to collaborative governance. Number three, limited investment. We all know this. Much as the government has tried, but we are still below the agreed upon 10% of the budget. So because of that, our food system is characterized by low productivity, poor infrastructure, limited market access, low value addition, high post-harvest losses, inadequate research and extension, and then the inability to attract investors. Limited advocacy and awareness. Definitely most stakeholders lack awareness and knowledge of the broader food system concept. Professor Kaya was in a meeting yesterday that was talking about food systems, and when he came to me, he told me that he didn't see that broader approach by those people. So they said, again, people said that this concept has not been promoted by the top leadership. People are like, what if we also talk about food systems like we are talking about PDM, for example? Or maybe the approach we used in the prevention of HIV/AIDS. It was at that high level. The message was being championed by people at the top. So can we also elevate this to that level? So those were the key gaps at action track level, but then also cross-cutting. Now we dive deep into food safety analysis, focusing on those very value chains that I mentioned so broadly, and these are some of the issues that have been persistent for quite some time. We noted that the regulatory and legal framework was very weak. As we all know, it is first of all the law that is governing Uganda's food safety framework is outdated and fragmented. We know there are efforts which have been going on, but I think they have taken long to be finalized, and we remain in that confusion. You try to read the Food and Drug Act of 1959. It's there, yes, but after separating the National Drug Policy and Authority Act, this one remained a little bit more of a skeleton and hanging around. and it also lacks the contemporary issues like mycotoxins and the pesticide residues and so on. Then we have the Public Health Act, which was amended just recently. Yeah, it's there, but it's also not linking very well into the Real Food and Drug Act. Yeah, we hope these efforts are going to quickly materialize. Of course, we have the National Bureau of Standards, which is normally on developing of standards and enforcement. But again, enforcement is weak. So, as we have seen this, the fragmented law, you realize that the mandate to enforce food safety is scattered along these MDAs, MAIF, MOH, UNBS, NDA, Ministry of Local Government, and sometimes URA. Yeah, sometimes URA. You find they are also into enforcing food safety. Of course, from the tax perspective and so on. So, the lack of a unified instrument has somehow hindered risk-based and science-driven regulation and enforcement. Sometimes you find the people who are there maybe do not have the capacity to understand some of the implications, the scientific implications. Then in most cases, we are a knee-jerk reaction. There is no formalized way of tracking some of these issues and do risk analysis to make sure that if we are going to enforce, then we are basing ourselves on science. The alignment with Codex and these other international bodies like the WTO and the EAC is partial. You find, yes, we have a standard. We have harmonized with the East African standard. But maybe our infrastructure and capacity does not allow us to able like carry out some of these analyses such that they get respected by the other international bodies. Or sometimes we even work and say, yeah, it passes, but then we get caught at the other side of the border, like it happened with our maize in Sudan, and it normally happens with the exported vegetables. So we are partially aligned in the context that, yes, we have harmonized our standards, but in terms of capacity to analyze for some of these safety issues, we are not yet there. In terms of the institutions and operations, of course, we lack that centralized food safety authority or a functional coordination platform, which leads to regulatory overlaps. We have been seeing that, inefficiencies and weak accountability. So this enforcement is mainly constrained by inadequate human and financial resources. Yes, we know UNBS is there, but they are not able to reach each and every corner of the country. And the mandate of coordination is weak, and of course our laboratory and surveillance. Our laboratory infrastructure and the surveillance capacity is also limited. So when we go to specifically to the cereals and the oil seeds, those three products, I mean the value chains I mentioned, there is widespread mycotoxin contamination, at least based on the literature that we came across. Some of them reaching 100%, samples not meeting the regulatory requirements. We have a challenge of bacteria, especially Salmonella and E. coli, due to poor post-harvest handling practices. And this one is very common in sim, especially that one which is exported. Pesticide residues, again in sim. Then the food allergens, this one is not too much, but associated with sim and peanuts. And of course, physical contaminants, stones, sand, and animal droppings. With sim, there is a thinking that the sand is added intentionally to increase the volume and then get more money. And this is a very big issue. But maybe if I can get back to this slide, you can see the way the maize is handled and how the simsim is also handled. You harvest and first keep it there. After some time, it is exposed to rain. The birds are feeding on it. As they are feeding on it, they are also dropping their fecal matter. And then the handling itself, we tend to dry and process on bare ground, sorry, which definitely affects quality and safety. Those GNATs, in most cases, there is a moisture fluctuation. They are being marketed in an open environment. You don't know how long that bag is going to stay there. So if there is moisture fluctuation, these grains are dried. So if there is high humidity in the environment, they can easily absorb. And the moisture can go high and result into contamination. In terms of the animal products, for milk, the key issue that was mentioned was veterinary drug residues. Because of the poor approaches that we are using, in most cases you find these herdsmen or women are also like paramedics. If my animal gets sick, I'm going to treat it. And when I treat it, I don't even observe the withdrawal period. As I treat the animal, I'm also milking, and we get those residues. Aflatoxins, M1, especially in those who are doing zero grazing. Especially in Wakiso, there is an increase of people who are doing zero grazing, but if you see the feed value chain, the feed value chain is not well managed, and there are issues that are related with the mycotoxin contamination. Adulteration, of course, coming from detergents, chemical preservatives, dirty water, cassava flour in milk, and so forth. That one was mentioned as a challenge. And then the microbial hazards associated with poor hygiene, use of contaminated water, utensils. I think we still have a long way to go. DDA was trying. I hope where it is now is still continuing to try. But the hygiene is still poor among some of the value chain actors. For fish, we normally have challenges with biological hazards, especially Vibrio, Listeria monocytogenes, Salmonella. One, because of the contaminated water, because most of the effluent ends up in our water bodies. But again, handling. If you can see what is happening here, that gentleman was cutting fish, and he started in the morning. You don't know when he's going to end. Yeah, that thing never gets cleaned. It's a piece of wood. Yeah, so it never gets cleaned. But also you see the fish which is being marketed is also in very dire conditions. But again, the people we talked to also mentioned the chemical hazards related to the organochlorine pesticide residues, which come from domestic activities and agricultural production activities, which end up in the water. Then, of course, the PCBs, heavy metals from all the garages that are operating around here. We are not disposing those oils properly, and of course the industries. So quite a number of studies that have been carried out, and they have found those chemical hazards to be high in our fish. Chicken, the biological hazards are coming from the production practices, but also from the handling practices. Fish, I mean chicken like fish, at the selling points, there is a big problem. The handling is not that good. So of course, like in cattle, the pesticide residues, the veterinary residues, as well as the pesticide residues which are associated with the feeds, then the heavy metals, and the mycotoxin M1, again associated with the feeds. The horticultural crops, this is the major issue is the pesticide residues. If you have been very observant, either in the market or when people are transporting to the market, you get to see the tomatoes with that white stuff. Yeah, the farmers tend to claim that, the traders tend to claim that that one provides a protective, it protects the tomatoes from further degrading, but science tends to say no. I don't know, but yeah, this should be done in the field, and when you observe the withdrawal periods, you should not be spraying towards harvesting. Then, of course, the microbial contamination as a result of poor markets, poor transportation infrastructure, and so forth, and heavy metals resulting from misuse of soil and the effluent, depending on where you have planted. So those issues were mentioned. So, in conclusion, we noted that our food system is performing below its potential. If you look at Uganda and what we are producing, we are performing below our potential. We are dominated by smallholder farmers practicing traditional agriculture, which eventually leads to low yields. But of course, that kind of peasantry farming or subsistence farming or small-scale farming presents persistent challenges that undermine progress towards a sustainable, resilient, and inclusive food system. And these are some of the challenges which I already mentioned. So we need to be addressing those. In terms of recommendations, we recommend to strengthen the coordination and governance. We want the National Food Systems Coordination Committee operationalized with full-time staff, a clear mandate for the key MDs, and then the defined roles for each stakeholder. We want to have an accountability framework to monitor implementation. If these people have their key roles and a clear mandate, then we are able to task them to provide accountability. Of course, we have to break the silos. Once those roles are defined, then we can see how we can work together without having overlapping mandates. We propose increased investment and resource mobilization. We need to scale up domestic and donor investments in critical areas, for example, post-harvest handling, market infrastructure, research, extension, mechanization, irrigation, and food safety infrastructure. I've always been telling my post-harvest students missing out. Then we also need to enhance nutrition awareness campaigns. This will be championed by the top national leadership. Like I had mentioned, we need to make food systems transformation a national priority. The authority, FARA is under process. Professor Kai, I don't know how far this has gone, but I remember last year we worked on it. I thought by this year it would be. It is recruiting. That is very good if it is recruiting. Then we need to empower women and youth because they are the people who are working around that, and we need to implement these affirmative action policies to increase their engagement in production. We need to invest in the youth. We know what they like, so we need to make agriculture more friendly to them in terms of digital agriculture innovations to create attractive livelihoods. Risk management, we are not managing risk at all. Because like I said, we have a knee-jerk reaction in most cases. When the problem goes, then we keep quiet until we wait for another problem to come. So we need to launch a national surveillance system for foodborne illnesses, implement traceability systems for recalls and export compliance. Normally when something happens in this country, it's very difficult to trace where it came from because we are not doing any traceability. And then we need to shift our gears into risk-based inspections using digital tools for high-risk sectors, like in the grain industry, where there is the problem of aflatoxins, in the milk, and in the sim and so forth. Of course, we need to do awareness and capacity building. The consumers need to be taught, the farmers, the vendors, and so forth, and then also support small-scale producers with funding and tools to meet food safety standards. Normally, we have left this to them. Nobody tries to. We support production, but we don't support food safety initiatives. So, like we had 4 objectives, I presented in details on 2 objectives. But we have these other outputs, like we have worked on a training manual, which most of you had you contributed by reviewing it and proposing changes. So it's more or less done, but a few editing and designing activities remaining. And this manual, like I mentioned at the beginning, is going to be key in facilitating all key stakeholders to popularize the message of food systems. Then we have developed a supporting document, a facilitator's guide, where if you're training, we give you tips on how to go about some of these topics. Then, of course, to inform the policy makers, we have worked on a policy brief, which I think is going to be very important in putting some of these recommendations into action. So we want to acknowledge our funders, that is FAO, OPM, which has been very supportive in terms of engaging the stakeholders, giving us all the information and supporting us. MAIF has been very key, especially in the food safety assessment. They supported us in interviewing some of the key informants and also giving us information. Mr. David Tumwesije is here. He very much supported us. The Ministry of Health supported us in reviewing the document. All the respondents during the survey and the landscape analysis, the experts who reviewed the documents, and all of you who have come today. We look forward to keep on getting support from you. And thanks very much for your attention.
Another round of applause for Dr. Abel. As you can testify, that was quite a handful, and I warned you that it's going to be quite a handful. So thank you so much, Dr. Abel, for taking us through that dissemination report. It is a very, very detailed one. And the outputs, finally, we can confirm that there is a training manual, there's a facilitator's guide, and then there's a policy brief. Before we proceed to our next agenda, allow me introduce people that have just joined us so that we can know who is amongst us, please.
Thank you very much. Amos Muwanji is my name, from Ministry of Education and Sports.
Thank you so much, sir. And we've also been joined by other colleagues online. Could we confirm if Agnes is online? Tech team. There is someone else that should have joined us online. Please confirm they are still available. Agnes Cherabo, please unmute and say hello to us. And you can type in the chat to confirm that you can hear us. All right. As Agnes Chirabo comes through, you know, reflecting on the dissemination report that we've been taken through and the gaps that were identified, it is unique to know the transformations that are ongoing in our food system space in Uganda. You can now see that there is chili and pepper that is being now predominantly produced in districts of Masindi. And then we're having tomatoes coming from Mbarara. It's no longer only milk. And then there's also poultry going on in Mbarara. And you know, since this is a regional initiative, we can borrow a leaf from the food systems that are happening in Ethiopia. If you follow Ethiopia, they have first of all, they have a different calendar from us. I think they're still in 2018. Yeah, they're still in 2018. But then also their food is a little, or their diets are a little different from the rest of the region. They have specific days that they eat meat, and then their wheat is usually gluten-free. And now that makes up their staple. So you shouldn't wonder why Ethiopians are all very slim and hardly have these diseases that we are now suffering with in Kenya and Uganda. And then the other food systems that are very interesting to me is in Rwanda. It is only in Rwanda in the world that you will find a milk bar. This is a bar that you go in just to take milk. Translate that into Luganda, ngena mubala, ngena kola, ngena kunyamata. Bala yamata. So it gives you an example of the thinking that goes into what food systems can entail. So once again, thank you so much, Dr. Abel. Now, at this moment, we're going to have a panel discussion. Could you catch Agnes Chirabo? Okay. So we're going to have a panel discussion, and I'm going to invite our panelists that are amongst us. I'll be inviting you one by one, and then you'll be coming to the high table where you'll take your seats. So we're going to have a panel discussion on strengthening Uganda's food systems transformation. And it is going to be divided between themes. And the first theme is going to be strengthening governance. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me invite Mr. Charles Asimwe that shall be taking us through that theme. So Mr. Charles Asimwe, you can take your place at the high table. A round of applause as he comes. And the second theme is boosting investment. The second theme is going to be promoting strengthening food control systems. And this is mostly going to be touching food safety. So ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite Professor Chileo Kaya to the high table. And then the other theme is going to be boosting agroecology and agriculture. Allow me invite Mr. David Tumwesije Amoti to the high table. And then the other one is boosting investment in food systems. Allow me invite Grace Bwenje from NPA to the high table. So, as we mentioned earlier, this was an initiative that was deepening the food systems. But amongst us, we are not novices in the food system space. And we are going to be hearing from our panelists on these varying themes. So, under strengthening governance, we have key actions that relate to the operationalization of the National Food Systems Coordination Committee with the staffing and the budgeting, and then we have the harmonization of key policies that have been mentioned in the dissemination report. That is the National Agriculture Policy, the Food Safety Bill, there is the National Drug and Food National Food and Drug Bill that is coming up, there is the NDP4, and then we have defined roles and accountability mechanisms. So, Mr. Charles Asimwe, how can Uganda harmonize overlapping food-related policies to strengthen accountability and coordination? I'll repeat. How can Uganda harmonize overlapping food-related policies to strengthen accountability and coordination? Over to you, Mr. Charles Asimwe.
Thank you very much, and the listeners on the online, for the good question about governance and accountability. First of all, I want to appreciate the team of the researchers for the work done, and also appreciate that in Uganda, we have a number of policy actions which are scattered across different ministries, departments, and agencies. But for this particular question, I will go direct to the implementation levels. For Uganda, much as we have a number of policies, very many of them, we have faced a challenge of limited or inadequate implementation at most levels, especially at local government level. So in the question that you have asked, how we can strengthen and coordinate accountability, one, I would propose that a deliberate effort is undertaken at planning stage to ensure that the accountability requirements for the key role holders, especially the chief administrative officers at the local government level, in their contracts. When you are signing, the CAOs are given contracts, and you would deliberately put an accounting requirement for them to report about food systems transformation agenda at their level. If this one is put in place, then the chief and officers and town clerks in local governments, which we have 176 local governments in Uganda, then would be able to hold them accountable. At the sub-county level, that one also applies. And most importantly, I heard the presenter making a reference to PDM. I want to clarify here that PDM is not just an intervention, not even a program, but is a multi-sector strategy which cuts across all the MDAs. And if we can also tag the requirement for accountability on the interventions which are food systems in nature, especially at pillar number 1, which cuts across all the series of food systems, then we can make the parish chiefs to be accountable at that level. I want to mention to you that also at that level, government has put a provision of having community-based facilitators at parish level who can support the implementation of some of these food system agendas. And I would want us to be, much as we are singing the word food systems, for me at practice I see the food systems are being implemented, although they are not clarified to the implementers. When you check at the whole food system, all the 4 components, under pillar number 1 of the PDM, they are already provided for. So can we hold those actors at that level accountable through the actual requirement in their terms of reference? Then for the results, I am currently working on the PDM framework, the resource framework for the PDM. Most of these things we are talking about food safety issues and the profitability issues are also provided, but the tracking them from that level to the district and national level is where the problem is. Then you talked about staffing. The staffing, we proposed this one during the human resource analysis, and we found it was a difficult idea to take forward in the medium term, but for the short term we can allocate tasks to existing staffs. For example, the culture officers in local governments, if we can add where there is any other assigned duties, can't we add there reporting and overseeing implementation of the interventions which are available under the food system, and we mention them. Otherwise, the recruitment currently might be hard to enhance the food system staffing. Then also for the focal persons at local governments, all local governments have now the multi-sector nutrition committee, which we had proposed should be expanded to food system and nutrition committee. And then we also add on the tasks. I would still propose that if we are pushing for recruitment, unless the non-state actors are also tasked to also provide short-term recruitment for the staffing, like it was happening at OPM when I was there. For now, I think I can on the policy for the food safety. Since we are going to, I would propose, since we are having the Minister of Culture working on the generic authority that was approved by cabinet, then we consolidate most of the food safety issues that are required and put them into that law. Then lastly, I wanted to make a comment on. I think I might have. Yeah, we are in the period where we are in a political space now. Some of these recommendations, I'd be happy if they can be put into a smart list and they are forwarded to the politicians, especially under the ruling government, so that when the president is even moving across the country, he can even make some of them presidential directives like this was done to others. Otherwise, he might miss the bus now, and we propose those policy actions which need the presidential eye, and we miss them out. The manifesto is already done. The NDP4 is already done. Can we also analyze to see with these proposals being made whether they already captured under the NDP4 and for example, the PDM strategy, and also the presidential pledges. I beg submit for now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Charles Asimwe. That is very insightful, understanding how the food systems get structured at the grassroots level, understanding how the community-based facilitators have all this information, and then it is the work being done, and then it's trickling up for it to be reflected up in our day-to-day reports. So we've been joined by Grace Chirabo. Please say hi.
I just forgot to mention one thing. With Minister of Local Government support and the FRA, I have been able to work with the Minister of Local Government Coordination Committee to translate all the 7 pillars of the PDM into PDM food security and nutrition. And that would also be one of the approach of cascading very quickly the food systems transformation agenda at the parish level. And we need to reach to 10,595 parishes in the country with parish action plans, where all these 7 pillars are captured in the food systems. Even the 4 action tracks of the food system can be captured there. So I'm making a call that as we talk about all others, let us not forget about the parish action planning, which is now the entry point for all these things to happen at household level.
Thank you so much. That highlights a point on inclusivity, at not leaving anyone behind. Agnes Chirabo.
Hello. It is good morning where I am, but good afternoon, Kampala. And congratulations to CEFOS for the project and the work so far done, and also the results that have been presented.
Thank you so much, Agnes. And Agnes, I would love to invite you while you're online also to be able to join our panel. And the next question is going to be coming to you after Charles Asingwe has highlighted on the grassroots level engagement in national strategies. So we're looking at the food system's key actions related to supporting women, youth through targeted funds, such as the PDM, the MIOGA, the agribusiness funds, and then the regulating middlemen via Warehouse Receipt System Act. So my question to you, how can targeted funds better reach and empower women and youth in agribusiness?
Thank you so much for that question. And I think Charles and the results have put it right. If we got it wrong in terms of planning, if we get it wrong in terms of organization, but also if we get it wrong in terms of coordination, not even these targeted funding mechanisms are going to create the impact that they are intended to make. I'm also not very sure whether I should talk about specific examples here, but maybe let me take the risk that we have known that several innovative facilities have been created in the country, targeting women, targeting young people in the agri-food systems, and everybody fantasizes talking about women and young people. But where is the impact of these facilities? If we are to be honest, because the people managing these facilities may not be in the room to defend themselves. So I'm not going to mention names here and create a crisis that was not intended for. It is not about these innovative facilities, I must say. It is about how well are we coordinated? Where are these women? Where are these youths? These women and their enterprises and their initiatives in the agri-food system is not about the money alone. And we all know that money has to come into a well-prepared eco system and organize the system. Is what the women and the young people doing fit for the market? Is it fit for the consumers? Is it the viable value chains? Do they have the right coordinations? Are they connected? Are they working in the most efficient networks? Do they have the markets? Do they meet the market needs? Do they meet the consumer preferences? Will they meet the consignments that are required? Do they have the right skills? Do they have the right technologies? Are they operating in the right ecological systems? Are they using the right breeds if it is for livestock? Are they using the right varieties for the particular value chains? Are they receiving the right extension? Do they have the right information? Are they organized? Are their capacities organized? These questions that I'm asking are questions to me that signifies that it's not about the innovative financing facilities well targeted to this particular group, but an ecosystem that must be organically organized and focused to reach a particular or to put a particular product or service into the marketplace. Therefore, in my personal experience, and I know that I'm in the space of researchers, these are areas that we really need to empirically put it to validation and proper assessment. The success of these facilities of targeted interventions has fallen into the cracks of those questions that I have put on the table. And unfortunately, we lose resources. We lose time, especially at this particular time when we are having these conversations where the economics is not working. The financial flows are dwindling. The funding envelopes are shrinking. And therefore, we must be intentional to make sure that for every single coin that invested actually yields much more than 6% of the initial investment. Otherwise, not only the macroeconomics, but also individuals are going to be indebted. Finally, the days of grants are running out, and if we are talking about targeted financing and targeted interventions, in all of the spaces I have been of recent this year, everybody is talking about partnerships. People are talking about investments in terms of loans. They're not talking about grants. Therefore, they are talking about, or they are asking us or requiring us to think much broadly into building a business ecosystem for women and men in the agri-food system. Chair, I wish to conclude by saying the good news is the food system's primary role is to feed people. And so long as their mouths that require to feed 3 times a day at minimum of safe, healthy, and nutritious diets, it means we can make a kill if we get more organized. Targeting is good, but targeting in a complex and disorganized ecosystem is not going to give us the results. I submit, Chair.
Thank you so much, Agnes. That is very insightful on organizing first the women and the youth, and then just not having a participation, but meaningful and tangible investments that can yield outcomes and results. Thank you so much, Agnes, for that. And since you've been touching on partnerships and coordination, we're going to go to the second theme, which is the boosting investment in food systems. And this will be going to Mr. Grace Bwenje. So there is a drive to increase agricultural funding to 10% of the national budget. And then there is a call to strengthen public-private partnerships for agro-processing and digital platforms. So my question to you, Mr. Grace, what financing strategies could help Uganda achieve the 10% agriculture investment target? Over to you, Mr. Grace.
Thank you very much for your question. The Kampala Declaration called on us, the African governments, to mobilize $100 billion US, both from government and the private sector, and they were very intentional to say private sector. Yeah. So, and if you heard what Agnes was saying, we are now moving into loans, into partnerships. So one, we will have to have these partnerships. We must work together with the private sector. The private sector has this money as well, and we have the priorities that we need, and they also want to make money. So it's very important that we put our priorities right out there. And how do we implement the priorities? These priorities are in the national plan. But how do they get into the national plan? It means we must be very consultative with all the actors, because we must work together. Because if we put interventions in the national plan that are not of importance to the country, then financing will be skewed. So we must finance those priorities to the country. Then also we must organize, yes, and you know, the funding from the civil society, the development partners, is no longer that very sustainable. but the little that is still out there, we must focus it. And that means we must organize ourselves as government, the development partners, into this one common platform and get the little money that we have available and focus it where our priorities. Is it food safety, and we put the money there? Where our priorities, is it access to the regional markets, and then we put the money there. And the other focus should be on what is trending. What is trending is where is everyone's priority? Where is everyone focusing? The world is focusing on transforming our food systems. And those who are behind will also have to move faster to be in the same space. So the world, the private sector, governments are financing food systems. So as you tease out your priorities, as looking for investment, which areas do you have that are within transforming the food systems? Because you must move into the area which is catchy, which is of interest to everyone. We know that in 2021, everyone agreed that when we transform these food systems, definitely we're accelerating our achievement of the what? Of the SDGs. And then I like how Uganda is pacing. We've moved away from the sectors and moved into programs, and that shows you that we have more interest in the results, not in the processes. And you must be accountable. So if you want more money invested in agriculture, but of what benefit do you have to the health sector, to the education, to the water? So these sectors now must work together and move in the same way, because in that way you're very organized now to attract this money. But if, and the presenter was talking about breaking silos, if we are still duplicating at that level, then we cannot attract finance. Actually, we're instead wasting the financing. You find different activities with same focus being financed across sectors. Then the other one is accountability. If you want to move to the permanent secretary, Minister of Finance, and you as the Minister of Agriculture, and you want more financing for agro-industrialization, he's going to ask you, what have you used the money I've given you for? So we need to see more of the outcomes. If you distributed pumps, let's say pumps for, these pumps for spraying pesticides and so forth, what happened after there? Have you reduced the pest incidences in the community? That's the outcome we're looking for. So when you convince him on that front, if you are accountable with the money that has been given to you in the previous financial years, and you can clearly see outcomes, then there's reason to why you should be given more money in the subsequent financial years. Then lastly, we need to attract the foreign direct investment in agriculture, because now that's where money is. You saw recently there was a company in Ginger that is going to make fish feeds, yes, animal feeds, and that is very important. And in the same meeting, the ambassador of Netherlands was telling the president, we have $6 million, and the president was asking him, can you give us that money and we find what to use it for? So can we attract more of these foreigners into this space? But we must work with what Charles was saying. Put the enabling environment right. If the development, if the guy with the money coming from Bangladesh, wherever he's coming from, if he studies your country and you don't have the right legal frameworks, the standards, then he's not interested. So first things first, and actually the money should, and you saw the presenter was saying, where have we gone with the FARA now, food and rights, I mean food and agriculture, regulatory authority and whatever. Put those first in place. What the regulation is saying, do they give me a proper working environment for me to invest my money? So that's where first work on the regulatory framework, the standards and all that, and then you can attract these FDI.
Thank you so much, Mr. Grace. He highlights the point of prioritization. Where there are always scarce resources, it gets down to prioritization. When there is no food in a home, the mother tends to forego certain meals so that the child can eat. So now how can this be done at the national level such that there is more for the children, which is agriculture, and then money coming in? And I'm glad Charles, Grace, and Agnes agree in regards to creating the ecosystem that is going to drive this transformation. So allow me go to how to promote our sustainability. So this is, it highlights, touches promotion of agroecology and land restoration, and then it also goes into the regulation of harmful pesticides and promoting integrated pest management. This goes to Mr. David Tumwesije.
Thank you so much.
The question is, which agroecological practices can be scaled up to restore degraded land and enhanced resilience?
Thank you so much, Benjamin, and for this opportunity. Much as it is a sweet ambush, I wasn't prepared for the question, and I don't have answers off my sleeve, but I'll give the perspective of the means of government through means of agriculture.
Perfect.
Of course, having heard from the presentation from Dr. Atkwasi, when he's telling us about the statistics of food insecurity, where 46% of the Ugandans, is a small percentage that is food secure and 54 are food insecure. And when he mentioned that the acceptable diets, that is with regard to meal frequency and diversification, is at only 10% for the children under 5, that is alarming. Now, government, I'll base my response at policy level. Government, through Ministry of Agriculture, has put in place a number of efforts to address the issue of sustainable production and the environmental protection. I'll give an example of them, that we have the World Bank project, the Uganda Agriculture Transformation Project, which looks at we are implementing right now, that aims at increasing agricultural productivity and market access, and then also looks at enhancing resiliency to climate shocks and supports climate smart technologies throughout the country, but also looking at enhancing food production to address food insecurity in the refugee areas. And the issue here is it looks at whatever we're going to do has got to resonate with climate smart production. That one addresses the issue of sustainability and environmental concerns. And then still, Ministry of Agriculture has developed the agroecology strategy. And this agroecology strategy is in its final stage, and top management very soon will be out. And when you look at the agroecology strategy, it squarely addresses the food system's concerns when it comes to environmental degradation, as the question, in line with the question I have put, whereby the key objectives of this strategy, agroecology strategy, is to enhance food security through quality, health, and local adopted food production. In particular, the strategy addresses your concern in objective number 2 of promoting climate resiliency by building capacity of environmental conditions and mitigating climate change impacts, and then also protect natural resource by promoting sustainable use of agricultural biodiversity, protect soils and conserve water resources by building resilience, water shortage management systems. So through the strategy, the agriculture strategy, we squarely, as government, through Ministry of Agriculture, address the same question. And ladies and gentlemen, those of you who participated wherever you were in the World Food Day that was celebrated in Revitawa on the 16th, you saw our research arm, NARO, coming up, launching those food value chains, the food commodities that are drought resistant, yet enriched with nutrients through biofortification, the bananas, the millet. So all those are efforts geared towards addressing sustainable production and in addressing food and nutrition security for our country. So, and lastly, we are reviewing the food and nutrition policy of 2003, and the strategic objective number 1 of production and productivity squarely addresses means and ways of enhancing production and productivity of nutrient-dense foods, being mindful of the environment. So all in all, there are deliberate efforts at policy level and program level and project mode to address food production, enhancing to address food security and nutrition, but cognizant of the environment and protecting the environment through from which food is being produced. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. David. It's so impressive to know that the agroecology strategy is in the works. It comes in at a very critical time that various parts of the country are threatening to desertify, and they already told us that the land is getting limited, the population is increasing, but we need to find ways to increase food production for the increased population, but at the same time not affecting the generations that are going to come. And I'm so glad that the government is taking that into consideration, in addition to with their research arms, which are putting up, utilizing the seed strategy, which is also going to be complementing the agroecology strategy. So there are impressive works that are ongoing. Moving on to the strengthening food control systems. Professor Achileo Kaya. So we are looking at actions related to enacting the food safety and quality law, which is the establishment of the FARA, upgrading laboratories and traceability systems, strengthening enforcement and consumer awareness. So my question to you, Professor Kaya, what are the key priorities to accelerate enactment of the food safety bill and establishment of FARA?
Thank you very much, moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, we have all heard from the presentation of CEFOS that the food safety issues are still a major issue, and the food control system is such that the laws and the policies are scattered all over the MDAs. Therefore, they need to come up with a coordination body, and that is which is being FARA. I think in order to accelerate this coming up with the FARA, we need to really to first of all establish. We know that food handling is a very major issue, major contributor. Is it possible to now make aware, enhance awareness of to the farmers how they should actually handle the food? And then is it also possible to come up with the research that can establish the current status of technologies that we have in this country that can actually contribute to management of food safety issues, especially to do with the small-scale farmers and those who are handling, the small-scale processors, because I think, as you have seen in some of these pictures, the way our food is handled is quite bad. Those who are handling animal products, the fish, the chicken, those who are drying our produce on bare ground, and I think overall food handling is really a very serious problem. There's an article which I read recently. I think this happened in 2024, where our simu, you know, contained a needle. The whole needle actually was in there, and the whole batch was rejected, which was actually bad. So awareness, I think, is very, very important. Now, the other issue also, which needs to be, I think, prioritized is to enhance the capacity of those who are supposed to be enforcing, you know, food safety issues, right from the local council level. In our game changers for sustainable development of food systems, we talked about getting food safety officers at the local level. You know, that was one of the recommendations, because right now the extension officers that we have, extension officers, they are mainly into production. But when it comes to post-harvest issues and this handling of food, I think from the safety point of view, we need real experts. Just like we have nutritionists, you know, at the lower level, I think also need those experts to come in. So that priority can actually be put on those, so that they can now keep on providing information that can, you know, lead to quicker enactment of the law. Then I think we also need to put into consideration what the experts, you know, came up with. I think, as somebody mentioned, we have had several meetings about this FARA. What is it exactly that is stopping it from being, you know, enacted? So I think those recommendations which were put up by the key people who have been having several meetings need to be actually, you know, put into consideration. Yeah, I think for the time being, they are also, I think we also have the African Union food safety strategy. What is it recommending actually in there that individual countries should do? You know, I think that needs to be also be put into consideration. We establish what is being recommended, and then we prioritize some of those important aspects. Yeah, at the moment, that's what I can say that we need actually to do.
Thank you so much, Professor Kaya. You know, it is very interesting, the country we live in. I love to call it, in my own terms, I call it our border economy. What does that entail? It entails the fact that you have to get down to the smallest unit of something for it to work. So if you're talking about safety, actually the border economy, I think it was only recently this year or the end of last year that the country conceded and they agreed that it is the second largest economic driver after agriculture, right? So now when you look at the border economy, it is looking at breaking the long value chains in transportation. And now when you look at safety, it means that you have to break it down all the way to the last mile, and then it can be brought back upwards. You cannot have safety up here and then it is lacking at down there. An example is this the downscaled soil testing kits that are now mobile, that almost every agricultural extension officer is going around with. So if such initiatives can be pulled up, and we can have some progress on that front. Do you still have Miss Agnes online? Tech team, please confirm we still have Agnes online. So in regard to boosting innovations, we're about to come to a close to this panel discussion. But in regards to boosting investment in the food systems, and then what Farah is talking about in terms of food systems safety issues that we have in the country, Mr. Grace Buenje, when we're talking about investing in having a 10% of the national budget invested in, and then we are strengthening public-private partnerships for agro-processing and digital platforms. My other question to you is, how can these public-private partnerships and digital innovations, like we're having granary, we're having Limisa, we're having extension services going as SMS, how can this be structured to benefit the smallholder farmers equitably? That is public-private partnerships and digital innovations.
Yeah, I will keep referring to the presentation. There's where you saw the presenter saying that, I think it was in terms of compliance, we are trying to comply to standards for which, as a country, we've not put the requisite frameworks and infrastructure. So we must, if you realize, we established many infrastructure within the communities for post-harvest handling, and that infrastructure, some of it is still inaccessible to the farmers, and there are many reasons. Some of them don't even have electricity. So, one, can we understand the needs of our farmers? What do they want at that moment? And then see how we can help them. Because we must find what is the suitability of what we are introducing, or of the PPP. How ready is it? You saw we have that Egyptian beef in Ruwero. Yes, and we don't have the animals, and we can't produce the type of meat the Egyptians want. What is our readiness? What's the readiness of our farmers? So first we need to understand the requirements of our farmers. And then also, we have very many platforms that are fragmented, especially data systems. We have, for example, the National Food and Agriculture Systems in MAIF. We have the PDM, Management Information System, and they are all very many, and and they are not interlinked at all, but we are creating them to serve that common person, the farmer. So how do we come together in one place and harmonize these platforms to make sure that the information that we are feeding in, one, is tested, and it's the credible one, and every stakeholder is agreeing, yes, these are a number of farmers we have, and these are their challenges, and this is the amount of milk that we are producing in Bushenyi. Then we must, I'll go back to the legalities. If it is a PPP, and who is sponsoring it? One time, about 12 years ago, I saw someone present at Serena, and I liked what they were saying. They were saying a PPP that has input from a development partner, a PPP that is financially supported by a private, by the development partner, is not a sustainable one. Yeah. Yes, government is borrowing to sustain a PPP. That one is not a sustainable, and we have several of them here in Uganda. I will not mention them. So, can we make our PPPs sustainable, and can government source money to run them, and also let's understand the needs of the farmers, the smallholder farmers.
Thank you so much. Going back down to identifying the gaps and the needs of smallholders and the practitioners. Now, as we close up, I have one last question, and this last question is going to be going to our beloved audience, but at the same time, it's going to be a question, but also you are welcome to ask any question to the panel. So, while we were talking about promoting sustainability, this question pertains to all of us. We all have do eat food, and if you are familiar with the food systems transformations, if you're in Kampala and you are not sure where your food was produced, then you are a victim of pesticide misuse. So my question to you, and also as you craft the questions that you have for the panel, is how can Uganda effectively regulate pesticide use? I'll repeat. How can Uganda effectively regulate pesticide use? This goes over to the audience. And also, if you have another question that you need the panel to clarify on, please, the floor is yours. You just have to raise up your hand, and then a microphone will be able to reach you. That is as we look to close up in the next 10 minutes. At least we've been able to sort of catch up with time. So how can we effectively regulate pesticide use? So this is not only for the crops, but then it also cuts across to the animals. And now, as the fisheries industry also grows, there is also chemicals being used on that end. And then as you look to diversify your livelihoods, you find the pesticides getting into your honey through the bees, right? And then you now have honey with traces of these minerals that can be detrimental to our health. So how can we work to regulate its use? It is unfortunate, there is the biggest supplier of agrochemicals, its founder, I think recently passed away. That is the proprietor of Bukola, I think. And if we learn from what happened with the, what it's called, what is the grain manufacturing, the grain company, whose proprietor also passed away? The one in Murende. Aponye. You see, there is something that happened also internally in that grain sector, and you could, those who know, who are in there, also know what is happening. But then also in the supply, on the supply side for the pesticide and whatnot with Bukola, how, as the biggest driver, what do you think the changes are going to be, and how can Uganda try to regulate its use? So over to you.
Thank you, moderator. This is a hard question for Ugandans. It is very hard for all of us Ugandans on how to control the use of pesticides. Because first of all, we start with the quality. What type of pesticides are we using? That is number one that we need to first address before we go even the how to use it. Secondly, we don't have the knowledge how to apply what we buy. So do we have that knowledge? How do we get, or how do we help the Ugandans to get the knowledge to know how to apply pesticides at what level? Because as the presenter was making a presentation, there are tomatoes that are ready for consumption, but they have pesticide, which should not be sprayed at that level. Because us who have got some knowledge, you know that you are supposed to spray at a certain age of tomatoes or greens or whatever. But now we are spraying even when we are harvesting, even when they are ready in the stores. So, can we control that problem? First of all, we need to have the knowledge, and the extension workers are the ones to help us. Like in the education sector, we have got the challenges of food safety. As All of us, I think we have runners in school. And in schools, by the 3 months they are at school, you'll be hearing them complaining of the stomach ache. What is the problem is the food they eat. The storage, how we store food in our schools, is one thing. So, moderator, the question of how do we control the use of pesticides, it is hard for us Ugandans. But we need the extension workers to help us, equip us with the knowledge of what level, when, how. That's when we shall get the answers. Thank you.
Okay, yes, please.
Thank you very much. I think the previous speaker has really given us very good points. But I think in addition to what he has said, we also need to know, I think we need to conduct research to generate data, more data on the concentration of these pesticides in the various commodities. Like now we're talking about tomatoes with respect to mancozeb. You know, I think we need to know the concentration that can actually lead to challenges. In most cases, the labels will indicate how to use the pesticide. Actually, the labels are always there, including, of course, the time that you should allow before harvesting the produce. They always include that, but mostly farmers don't follow that, you know, those labels, and that's the problem. So the extension officers needed to, you know, to continue being, I think, innovative, to always inform farmers to follow the manufacturers' recommendations. Then also we need data on exposure. You know, I think more data on exposure, because to what extent are we now exposed to these, pesticides? I think we need to do that. That data is still missing. And then, of course, information on the currently banned, pesticides, which are still coming in this country. They are still being used. So we need to get a clear list of those pesticides that have been removed from the market, and then we find a way of stopping them to come to this country. So the board, is it the Chemical Control Board? Is that the name? Yeah, we suppose. Yeah, they're supposed to help us in doing that, so that now in that way, we'll be able to come up with the, regulations and how to use the pesticides. That is my contribution.
That's very interesting. Okay, so we have
just a small
okay.
rejoinder, Prof. You bring an important issue, and Amos, my brother. On a serious note, as we talk now, Ugandan honey and cultured fish is on red alert in the EU market. Given the way we produce it, they don't want to see Ugandan honey and cultured fish. You could find out from yesterday, I was attending the Codex meeting on behalf of the ministry, and the EU says we don't want honey from Uganda and cultured fish out of pesticide residues and the way hives are being handled. Everybody, our hives in up country. Some of the honey is good from underneath in the rocks and in the, So EU says don't bring your honey. So these are serious issues, safety issues that we're handling.
Over to Mr. Charles. This is very serious. Yes, Mr. Charles.
I think I have 3 areas: the legal and policy actions, and also enforcement, monitoring, and also farmer and dealer component. I would propose that since the registration of agriculture chemicals of 207, I don't know 207 now, how many years are those? Those are almost 15 years. We need to amend some of the elements in the registration. Then we also strengthen the agriculture chemicals board, which we have talked about. Then harmonize some regulations. Then where we need some specifications, now like the school components. When the regulation was being made, it was focusing on production, but what about now tracing towards the school system? That's an area on registration. Then also on enforcement, I think we do not have enough resources for the people who do enforcement. Most of the enforcers, they even have a short lifespan. You are going to enforce, the other actors in the system are trying to bring you down. So we need to support the enforcers, especially in the funding and also the general support, especially the political environment where people don't say, don't touch my what? My voter. Then the counterfeits, there are very many everywhere. And unfortunately, some of the extension workers and even the people in the government are the ones even running those drugs, those shops. Yes. And this also applies in the schools. You find you are going to enforce in a school, but the owner of the school is a member of parliament, or is an LC5 chairperson. Then for the farmers and the dealers, I think we need to promote the training of them on integrated pest management as a matter of fact, including the dealers, especially under the PDM arrangement under pillar number 3. The dealers in the chemicals are supposed to be oriented and brought on board to ensure they provide the right things. But everyone is just focusing on giving out the 1 million, then the rest is left out. Raising awareness and the proper storage of the inputs on the agrochemicals is very, very important. You find the chemicals are just kept within even where you are even having the food components. Those are some of my proposals, but as I've told you, the policy documents are in place, but the ones to put them down and make them happen are not there. I've been very common at grassroots level, especially at parish level, where everything happens and you find people are stranded because people to deliver what we are talking here, they remain in the center here, and on the ground they are not there. So people are just driving the agenda on their own.
Yes, thank you so much for those insights. It's very interesting when we start talking about food systems, we may not stop. These are very pertinent issues that are affecting us, that we see happening. And we're going to have just one comment from Mr. Fred, who will be closing up the panel discussion.
Benjamin.
Yes.
The gentleman was asking, lamenting actually, that the extension workers should help when it comes to the same issue of pesticide residues and the related food safety concerns. My suggestion, much as I come from the Ministry of Agriculture, and I've always suggested that the Department of Inspection and Certification of these agrochemicals is centralized in the Ministry of Agriculture at the center. When you go down to all the 147 districts, Charles is better, and local governments, we don't have people of that caliber to do certification and inspection so that they can save people in real time. Now, the suggestion would be, just like the Bureau of Standards is now decentralizing some of the labs to have regional branches, these services must also be decentralized so that an extension officer at the district is able also to certify and inspect and then save lives, rather than saying they will be calling inspectors from the center to go to Kabarle, down in Kanungu, to go to Kotido to do the same services. That way, if these services are decentralized and then districts also employ real certification and inspection officers, that would save rather than depending on all the services at the center.
Okay, I think in addition to that, now that is at certification stage, I think we have a leaf to borrow from the health department. Before a drug shop is established, there has to be a hand of a pharmacist, right? So now we have enforcers on our end as a ministry. Then now when these agro input dealers are establishing their shops, they also need someone, an agriculturist, an agronomist that is going to be overseeing that. And there is the Uganda Society of Pharmacists, the Uganda Pharmaceutical Society. What is that equivalent for us in the agri-food systems? You understand? So let's have Mr. Fred to close up our panel discussion.
Okay, so let me just give a comment that the emphasis has been on pesticides, but manufactured. But we need also to consider the issue of organic pesticides and promote organic agriculture and also organic products. So I don't know why you are not putting emphasis on this. Because if we promoted organic pesticides, probably would avoid some of the current challenges we have. So because you are aware there is no GAM in Uganda. It's a movement on organic agriculture. It has made some milestones. It's now 25 years old. They will be holding Organic Week in a few days to come. Can we pick lessons? Can we replicate their success stories? So that in that way we do away with these challenges associated with manufactured pesticides, the counterfeits. So when Abel was presenting, he said that when he visited these market vendors in respect to tomatoes, they told him that we spray our tomatoes or our fruits to prevent them so that we can extend their shelf life. That's what they told him. And as a scientist, he doubted them. But what is unfortunate is that there is no, again, scientific evidence to prove those vendors contrary to their claim. Probably if we had that, if there is, then it's not disseminated. It has not been shared with them. Otherwise, why would they continue clinging on something that doesn't work? So let's take this matter seriously. If there is, let it come to the fore. Let it be disseminated and shared, especially with those vendors in various markets. Then lastly, I wanted to comment on the issue of strengthening, which was recommendation number 3 in the report. Strengthening the regulatory enforcement of food safety standards, especially in the informal markets. And here I would speak to grain subsector. This grain, what has been done following the policy action in grain trade policy, we have put up a platform, a coordination platform for all the regulators, for all the actors in the grain value chain or general subsector to ensure that we develop mechanisms to iron out and strengthen these food safety standards. And what we have done so far, among the achievements that we have said, for example, if we are to do public procurement, you must have procured, if you are to qualify for the tender or even be pre-qualified, must have done certification with regulatory agencies, that is UNBS and also MAIF. So you must have those certifications. And if you don't have and you want to supply, you must also indicate, you provide evidence that you'll be supplying products from those who are already certified. So there is already a gazetted instrument or guideline by PPDA. It has been followed up with a circular, administrative circular at all the procurement entities, especially public entities, to ensure that that is adhered to. So and many other interventions are happening. So now to export or even trade in the market should have 2 certifications, the SPS certification and then also the CHO mark before even you are allowed to cross the border. So we are also going down to head-up districts, develop ordinances that will make this strengthening of the regulatory enforcement inclusive. So that's grain, but you know what is happening in dairy. There are roadblocks. Normally when you can be stopped and your product destroyed at your own cost. Coffee. So we think there are many already learning experiences we could adopt, rather scale up, replicate, and be able to really strongly say that if food is not, if the product is not safe, should not be allowed, or should never be allowed on our markets. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think he has wrapped up all of our discussions. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to allow the panel to go back to their seats, but as they go back, we are going to stand at the front of the high table, all of us, such that we can have a team photograph, and then thereafter we'll have Mr. Fred coming up with the closing remarks for this dissemination meeting, and right after that we'll be heading out for our lunch. I hope the agenda is clear. Okay, so a round of applause as we allow our panelists off. Thank you so much. Tech teams, help us with this photo at the front here. Yes. Yeah, we will always have comments. Yes. Yes, please. Okay, be pushed at the front so that people standing behind. So John, you can come at the back. Please. This will be John's. Please. And the panelists, please. Mm-hmm. There were two more, but I think they've stepped out. Yes, please. Okay.
I expected that comment from There is space here.
Thank you so much. Oh, they're done. All right. We're going to sit for only about 5 more minutes, and allow me invite Mr. Fred to close our dissemination meeting.
Yeah, colleagues, let's go into the closing moods. Thank you very much, Marty University scholar. Yes, so I was wondering how you attend to all those universities. Did you do it virtually or you? Yeah, but we are happy for what you have done. Yes, so distinguished guests, colleagues, and esteemed stakeholders, as we conclude this dissemination meeting for FAO CEPHOS project on identifying gaps in food systems pathway implementation and conducting food safety analysis, as the topic was, I'd like to address my gratitude to everyone, each one of you as stakeholders, for having actively been involved and also indicating your interest and enthusiasm in this subject matter of national food system transformation. So allow me, first of all, appreciate the technical and the financial support from FAO and CEPHOS, which has enabled us to identify gaps in our food safety, rather in our food systems pathway implementation. They have also been able to conduct a comprehensive food safety analysis, and their results have also informed policy decisions so as to be able to develop a resilient food system. So I want to thank you for that effort. You saw their recommendations, you saw the gaps identified. These are fundamental. So what now awaits us as stakeholders, representatives of different agencies, we need to see that some action is taken. Now, as key takeaways, these project findings and recommendations, I must say, provide valuable insights for improving food safety, nutrition, and sustainability. So we need to build on these findings or these results of this piece of work to strengthen our food safety frameworks as a country. We also need to enhance coordination among stakeholders, especially those who are involved in food regulation, food safety regulatory frameworks, rather activities. And then we need also to promote sustainable food systems. As I said, I was emphasizing organic agriculture, organic pesticides. Why don't we adopt this? So, ASTRE is our commitment. As the Minister of Trade, I really affirm our commitment to working with FAO and also CEPHOS and all you stakeholders to address food safety challenges. As I indicated earlier, we have already put up a platform. It's a National Coordination Forum on grain trade, basically to address food safety challenges, and then so that we ensure a more sustainable food system for all Ugandans. Lastly, allow me to thank the project team, Executive Director and your team at CEPHOS, FAO, and you stakeholders actually, for your contributions during this short meeting. I want to thank this partnership between FAO and CEPHOS for having provided us with valuable insights. And I think when we look forward to you sharing the report so that we can be able to use it, see which projects, which initiatives can be developed to implement and fill up these gaps that you have been identified. So with those few remarks, allow me declare this meeting closed. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mart, University Scholar.
I'm also a food systems enthusiast. Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Fred. We have, I hope we've all received coupons. Jacqueline will be directing us to where the lunch is. Jacqueline, where could the lunch, which direction do we take? straight to the other restaurant. All right. So that's where our lunch will be, and thank you for coming. Sure.